Just going to have a little chat. This is really interesting. I've taken 8 days to get back and do another balance, and my technology just does not want me doing it. It's very interesting when things just don't work and you sort of think, interesting. So I thought I would tell you about a little technique I was chatting to one of my clients about last night. So this is for when there is energy on the planet that you don't want to be part of your world. So whether there are people in your past, present, future who are hurting you, and sometimes it's the energy of a type of person. So some of us have bullies in our world, and we always attract the same type of bullies or the same type of man, woman, child in our world that causes us harm energetically, emotionally, spiritually, physically. So you can even bind those. So it's sort of basically visualizing that when you have a negative thought about someone, for you in your now moment, you're having a negative energy, and it's downgrading your vibration. So just the thought that you're having is actually downgrading your energy if we're thinking negatively about something. Now, sometimes it's just our now moment that is unhappy with them, but if we can consciously have that now moment and to energetically start binding them. So just say, okay, so I've got someone. So just say at 15 years old, you get picked on by someone at, a party, and every time you think about them, you either feel guilty or shame or embarrassed or hurt or angry or whatever it is. So just as soon as you have that thought, close your eyes, bind them. So sort of like Scooby-Doo. So imagine them in bandages from their shoulders down to their feet. You're not hurting them, but it's making them unavailable to hurt you. If they said something that they shouldn't have said, you could imagine a silk cloth around their mouth. If they saw you do something that you're embarrassed about, you could bind their eyes. If they heard you say something that you were embarrassed about and therefore that's given you shame or guilt, you could even have their ears covered. So sort of visually, you can imagine the senses will tell you, which one is really, really bad. So I'm hearing there's people that I'm hearing on television who are just driving me nuts. So for them, I don't want them speaking. So, I'd sort of like be binding their mouth and doing the binding from the head to toe. So that was a nice little thought. So anytime you have a negative thought, because within my world, you can imagine there's all sorts of visualizations that kinesiologists and hypnotherapists and practitioners do. And sometimes it's about sending back the negative energy to that person, except then you're sending negative energy back to that person. Does that help them become a better person? Whereas if we're binding and we're not hurting them energetically, we're just, and you can imagine if there's someone on the planet that is causing evil to happen to hundreds of thousands of people or millions of people, and we've got, 20, 30, 40,000 people binding their energy, it makes it harder for them energy to actually, makes it harder for them energetically to keep on hurting people. Energy is power. Thought is power. And this one didn't cut out on me. Anyway, I'll get to part 2 of what I started yesterday at some stage, but at the moment, technology is funny. I just did really want to mention, there's one of the things that I'm keeping an eye out, and I know it's going to annoy a lot of people, but Dr. Sherry Tenpenny she's found the 10 major ways that this new world drug is damaging people. So I've been listening to a lot of that in the last few days and trying to make notes and get a cohesive thought pattern going, because I'm sure if you're watching all the side effects, there seems to be some really specific stuff going on. And one of the things that was said is that they took part of the spike protein, and of course with the mRNA, the M is messenger, and it's telling our body to create a synthetic protein, and then our immune system has to create an antibody to that synthetic protein, because it's not real, it's not part of the real coronavirus, so it's synthetic. And basically within that little process, which sounds like a nice, neat, tidy little way of creating a medication, there's many things that can go wrong. And they actually took part of the antibody and they tested it to 55 different body parts, and 28 of them reacted. So when you're seeing people who are reacting in many, many, many different ways across the planet, this is sort of what's going on, that doctors don't know. Doctors aren't being told this stuff. I mean, Sherry spent, dozens of hours in the last few months pulling apart this data and reading journals and working out what's going on. So as a doctor and scientist, she's putting together a comprehensive list of ways that this thing can happen. But the fact that they've actually done studies and found that it reacted with 28 out of 55 body parts, that's pretty interesting to me. So it means that we might be having issues anywhere in the body. And because the messenger, they don't know yet, because, it's a maximum of a year old, this drug. It's a maximum of a year old. So they haven't done 2-year studies. They haven't done 5-year studies. They haven't done 10-year studies. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at things. You can't do a 2-year study in 6 months. You just can't do it. So, and we know long term if things like cancers are exacerbated, or like, for example, some of the side effects people are getting is swollen lymph nodes, and for women, tender breasts. So now when people are going in to have breast exams because they've had, say, cancer in the past, they're being asked if they've had the vaccine recently, and if they had, they're being told that it's a natural reaction to the vaccine. Now, as someone who has a lot of breast cancer in my family, I would be very concerned if any of my family members were being told not to have screening just because they'd had a vaccine recently. What if it's exacerbating something in the system? Anyway, that should have been it. Anyway, it's just really interesting. And of course, what's happening in Gibraltar and Israel, and it's just a very interesting time on the planet. And I just want everyone to take care, look after your immune systems. Plenty of vitamin C, plenty of vitamin D, plenty of zinc. Your minerals are so crucial. There's herbs like astragalus and andrographis and echinacea and all sorts of things that you can do to boost your immunity. We've got to have great immunity however we move forward on this planet. We don't even know if people getting the medication are going to shed for a week or a fortnight or forever, because there's been no long-term studies. And last night, there was a big letter put on Twitter by someone who's worked for Garvey. He's worked for Bill and Melinda Gates. He's been creating vaccines for over 30 years. He's Google it, you'll find it. Like he sort of has said, stop this mass vaccination. We're going to create bigger problems down the track. So, and he is not an anti-vaxxer by any stretch of the imagination. But when we're looking at what's happening in certain countries around the world, there's some interesting statistics, data analysis going on, but the governments are just going go, go, go without seemingly looking at what's happening. So, bind those evil people. Blindfold them, cover their ears, cover their mouths energetically. Send them light and love. Send light and love out into the universe to all of the people who are really looking at our best interests. And we all have to maintain our energy, maintain our vibration, maintain our love and light and happiness on this planet of ours. Don't, what we focus on, we get more of. So keep it light, keep it safe, keep it fun, keep it happy. Love you guys. Take care.